We've had viewers that were interested in learning how to do body work, and when you're doing cars like this on the cheap and you're young, the way you save money is by doing your own body work, and everybody's afraid to start because they think they're going to wreck it, but the only way you get good at it is to just jump into it and do it. And hopefully you can find somebody that's done it before you, tell you all the pitfalls, and a video like this is a perfect place to learn. This is a situation all the way down. When you get an old car, you're going to have dents all the way up and down it. And the only thing we're doing with body work is just tricking the eye to see a straight line where there used to be a dent. You're going to see this whole area was banged in. Very quickly, you can just get 75% of it out of the way by just punching it back out. But once that metal's been stretched, it's going to go boom, 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 back and forth. The thing about metal is it's kind of got a memory. The way this thing was stamped out, it wants to go back to the way it was, but because between these two lines, you always got a dome. Nothing on a car is straight. Otherwise, the thing would just be wobbling like a piece of sheet metal. So when they stamp it out, the integral shape of the panel keeps it from, it's under stress, and makes it stronger, and it doesn't shake. What we're going to do is try to get that shape back, and then once you get this popped out like this, then you've got metal that's been stretched at the high points. Anytime something gets bent up, then the outer edges get bulged out. So once you pop this out, then we have to relieve the high point and bang out the low point. And if we were doing this right and had the whole thing sanded down, we could end up, doing a better job. But he's trying to just get by, leaving as much of the paint on as possible later on doing a body job. So it's going to make it more difficult. And then we'll show you what you got to do before you even start this job. We're going to show you how the inside has undercoating that they used back in the old days that they found was a hindrance, actually, because it would just dry up, crack, water get behind it, and then it would hold moisture. And a lot of times a car that was undercoated rusted out faster than one that didn't have any undercoating at all. So we have to knock this stuff off in the back before we can even get close to the metal in order to do the hammer and dolly work. So I'm going to show you what this undercoating was like back in the late 60s. It was just a tarry substance that has a petroleum product. And what you find out with the old paints that had solvents and anything that has oil in it, over time it dries out. And when it cracks, this is what you're going to see. And then you'd get water hiding behind there and it would rust out. Now, in order for us to even get a dolly up against the metal, we got to scrape this all off. Once we get this clean, then you're holding the dolly, and when you're forming the metal, you're going to have a surface that's, metal to metal. When you hear it going tink, 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 just the sound, you'll get to be knowing when you've relieved the stresses in the metal and gotten it to the shape that you want. So what I found out that this stuff is like 36 grit sandpaper. If you slip, you better wear a glove, because you drag across that and just hogs your skin off.
That corner there was totally undercoated. We chipped that whole big block out of there, and then I really had to work at it, but I got this wire to come through to the bottom. Here's the bottom of the quarter panel. It's important to make sure that your car can drain any water it takes on.
So this is the deal. In order to end up doing body work, you got to have the tools to do it. And when somebody shows you how to do different jobs, you got to use different tools for the different jobs. And most that you're going to use is this little palm dolly. These were cheap tools bought from Harbor Freight. You can get them, or if you go to a swap meet, they always sell them cheap tools at swap meets. They're made in China probably, and they aren't going to last, but how often do you do body work? You can take a grinder, grind them smooth. You can see how imperfect, the castings are. There's still paint showing through here, but it's good enough. And if you buy expensive tools, they're going to cost you more money. These are what you're going to use most. This is for stuff where you're going to see when we go into the trunk floor is here and the quarter panel goes below an edge. You can't fit your hand in a dolly in there. So then you're going to use tools that get into places like under 90-degree corners, like the tip of the fender. We use this. This is another good one. When you want to start shaping, you might just use your hand and beat stuff out. And then you have the flat area on that end. You got different types of tools for the shapes that you're doing. And then when the metal's been overstretched and there's nothing you can do about it, some people will heat and quench metal, but that hardens the steel to try to shrink it. Once this metal's been stamped out one way, and then all of a sudden it gets in an accident and puts a V in it, metal's moving all around. Even when you try to get it back out, you got extra metal there. So the way you take care of that is to use your dolly. Now none of these are exactly straight. This has got a little curve to it. When you got the metal supported in the back, and you keep putting all these little dingers in it, you're going to be using up some of the metal, and you can get rid of that stretched out metal around the border of where it was dented in. And that's what we're going to do. What you'll find when you're doing body work just in a regular old, your parents' garage or something, lighting has a lot to do with it. A lot of times something, that's painted flat black, like these rat rods, they don't show all the dents. But if you got a car that's shiny, especially black, you're going to see every wave and ripple through the side of the body. A lot of times when you can't see the dents, and he's not sanding this down because he just wants to have the body work done at a later time, or we're just trying to knock out dents, you can feel it with your fingers. Your fingers can pick up 0.04 of an inch. Now when you're going like this, you got to remember where this is, because if we had it sanded down, the paint would be dull where the high points are, and then we'd be able to easily identify them and knock them down until it all comes level when you're sanding. But we're going to do it the hard way and just feel these dents out. Do this part first and then do the hard part down there. Look at the edge of the hammer.
Here?
Yep. No, I'm gonna come back out. I hate to do that. And out further. This can be filled with bottom. You're never gonna get rid of that original depth. We're just trying to make it as minimal as possible. Feel the bulge out here. What's happening is when I ground this flat, because they're cheap tools, I didn't bevel this edge, and now that I'm hitting, and sometimes you don't come down exactly flat, I'm hitting and it's cutting into the paint. So we're gonna bevel these corners. only way you could get this any closer now is to run a flat, sand, or you could DA it. You can spray some light primer on it, and it's going to show all the low spots. Then you would take this hammer, just slowly but surely, just tap the low spots and tap the high spots. But this would be such a thin layer of Bondo anyway, it would just be a waste of time. By the time you end up going with like some 80 grit sandpaper and knock this paint down, you're just gonna have a few little high spots that you might have to tap back in. Put a smear of Bondo over here, and it's gonna be good to go. Now we're gonna repeat the process for the lower portion below this line. As we relax this and keep the edge of the dolly on this crease, we should get this crease strengthened up again. That's where all the durability is built into this panel with that crease.
This is pretty much our final answer on that. Give you a couple different angles here. It's still a hair beneath the body line, but you want to work up to the body line. The bottom actually straightened out really nice. Again, this is just roughing it in until it gets some proper body work.